8 p.m. time for Panorama News on Nile TV International. I am Basmة. Starting off with the main headlines. President Sisi reviews ties and regional issues with Spanish Foreign Minister. The Israeli army kills Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar during clashes in Gaza. And the German UNIFIL warship intercepts a drone of Lebanon. Welcome back. The news in full. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received José Manuel Albares, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, European Union and Cooperation of Spain, and his accompanying delegation on Thursday. Presidential spokesman Ahmed Fahmy said President el-Sisi appreciated the positive Spanish stances. Fahmy said the meeting tackled current regional developments, most notably the Palestinian issue, which is reflected on the ongoing coordination between Egypt and Spain and the common vision that unites them in order to achieve peace in the Middle East. For his part, the Spanish Foreign Minister conveyed to President el-Sisi greetings and appreciation of Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. The Spanish top diplomat hailed the pivotal role played by Egypt to stop the expansion of the violent circle and advance efforts to establish peace and stability in the Middle East. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi on Thursday. During the meeting, President el-Sisi called for ending the circle of violence in order to evade the Middle East from slipping into a wider war, which could result in serious repercussions on security and stability of all countries and peoples of the region. President el-Sisi stressed the necessity of intensifying international efforts aimed at reaching a ceasefire in Gaza and Lebanon, stopping Israeli violations in the West Bank, in addition to implementing a quick and sufficient humanitarian aid to end worsening conditions in the Gaza Strip. For his part, the Iranian minister expressed his country's appreciation for ongoing Egyptian efforts and vital role to achieve stability and security in the region. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Egyptian Expatriates Affairs Badr Abdulati held talks with Iranian counterpart Abbas Araghchi in Cairo on Thursday. The talks tackled regional developments as Israel continues its strikes on both Gaza and Lebanon and threatens to attack Iran. The top diplomats discussed the ongoing situations in Gaza and Lebanon, consulting on how to de-escalate tensions in the region amid Israeli military actions. The visit marks the first by a high-ranking official to Egypt in a decade. The two diplomats will hold private talks at Tahrir Palace before expanding talks to include both delegations. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Egyptian Expatriates Affairs Badr Abdulati held a phone call with his Ugandan counterpart Judy Odongo on Thursday. During the call, the two ministers discussed means of enhancing bilateral relations, and they also reviewed a number of African issues of mutual concern in light of challenges facing the continent. In this respect, the two top diplomats probed the pivotal role played by the two countries in supporting peace, security and stability across Africa. A foreign ministry spokesman said Minister Abdulati conveyed greetings and appreciations of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to his Ugandan counterpart. Minister Abdulati further reiterated Egypt's keenness on boosting bilateral cooperation in political, economic and developmental domains. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli stressed the state measures during the past period had great role in ending the deficiency in medicines problem and going back to normal. This came during Premier Madbouli's meeting with Minister of Health and Population Khalid Abdel Ghaffar to follow up on the situation of providing medicines and medical equipment. The Prime Minister asserted that the state is keen to provide necessary resources to the medical supply and the management of medical technology to meet needs of medical sector. Madbouli underscored the significance of using the scientific name of the medicine rather than using the commercial name to help in finding alternatives for the citizens. The Cairo Water Week concluded its activities on Thursday with the participation of over 30 international organizations. The concluding session was entitled Water, Climate and Building Communities Capable of Steadfastness. Addressing the concluding session of the conference, Chief of EU Mission in Egypt said, Cairo Water Week is an important platform to discuss water issues. He also said that the conference discussed fruitful solutions and recommendations, adding that Cairo Water Week contributed to boosting regional and global cooperation. The conference also discussed files of water climate change and challenges in the African continent. The Israeli army announced that it had assassinated Hamas chief Yahya Sinwar during a military operation in Gaza on Thursday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is due to hold an emergency meeting with his defense minister and army leaders to discuss the killing of Sinwar, the head of Hamas, who came after the Israeli killing of the group previous leader Ismail Haniyeh. Details follow.
The Israeli occupation military claimed on Thursday the killing of Hamas top leader Yahya Sinwar during clashes in the Gaza Strip. The military said in a statement that 3 Hamas members were killed during the clashes in Gaza without elaborating. It asserted that the DNA had confirmed that Sinwar was one of them and said the identities of the 2 others were so far not confirmed. Meanwhile, Israeli media said that Benjamin Netanyahu will hold security consultations with the defense minister and a number of army leaders over Sinwar's death. Sinwar was one of the chiefs of Hamas and was chosen as the group's top leader following the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in July in an apparent Israeli strike in the Iranian capital Tehran. Separately, Palestinian officials in Gaza reported at least 15 dead, including 5 children, after a strike on a school being used as a shelter early Thursday when the 2 civilians damaged a military post. The Israeli military said the strike targeted dozens of Hamas and Islamic Jihad fighters who had gathered at the school. The strike hit the Abu Hussein school in Jabalia, an urban refugee camp in northern Gaza. Earlier, Israeli military said it had allowed 50 trucks of humanitarian aid into northern Gaza after the United States warned it would boost its aid efforts or risk losing weapons funding. Israel's offensive has killed over 42,000 Palestinians, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. The region has suffered heavy destruction and has been completely encircled by Israeli occupation forces for nearly a year.
UN agencies said on Thursday some 345,000 Gazans face catastrophic levels of hunger this winter due to falling aid deliveries, warning of the risk of famine across the Palestinian territory. This is up from the 133,000 currently categorized as experiencing catastrophic food insecurity. A surge in humanitarian assistance this summer brought some relief to Gazans, but September saw the lowest volume of commercial and humanitarian supplies enter Gaza since March. It projected that the number of people experiencing catastrophic food insecurity between November 2024 and April 2025 would likely reach 16% of the population. A German warship deployed as part of the UN peacekeeping force in Lebanon has shot down a drone off the Lebanese coast. The UN peacekeeping force in Lebanon has come under repeated fire in the Israeli-Hezbollah war in recent days. Details follow.
A German army spokesman said an unmanned aerial vehicle was detected in the vicinity of the corvette and was brought down in a controlled manner. The spokesman said he was unable to provide further details for reasons of the operational security. UNIFIL spokesman confirmed that earlier on Thursday, an unmanned aerial vehicle of unknown origin approached one of UNIFIL's maritime task force ships of the southern Lebanese coast. He said that in accordance with procedure, electric countermeasures were used and the UAV fell and exploded on its own, adding that UNIFIL was looking into the matter. A spokesperson for the Banchwar Military Joint Operations Command said the object of the unknown origin was targeted by defense systems. 5 peacekeepers were injured in a series of incidents last week, with the latest seeing the UN force accuse Israeli troops of breaking through a gate and entering one of their positions. The Israeli military has said it is not targeting UN peacekeepers, but the incidents have sparked a wave of international criticism. UNIFIL positions have come under fire in Lebanon since Israel launched the ground operation against Hezbollah on October the 1st, raising alarm among European governments participating in the mission. The United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon was set up in 1978 to monitor the withdrawal of Israeli forces after they invaded Lebanon to stem Palestinian attacks targeting northern Israel. The peacekeeping mission includes about 10,000 personnel overall, with its maritime task force focused on preventing arms smuggling by sea.
Syria's military said that a strike by the Israeli occupation forces this morning wounded 2 civilians and damaged a military post. The Israeli occupation forces targets military sites in Syria, claiming that the sites linked to Iran and to Lebanon Hezbollah, and has escalated its campaign against Hezbollah in recent weeks after a year of nearly daily exchanges of cross-border fire. The U.S. conducted multiple B-2 bomber strikes on weapons storage facilities in areas of Yemen controlled by the Houthi group. The Houthis vowed to retaliate after media reported 15 strikes targeting sites north and south of the capital Sana'a, as well as further north in Sada governorates. The United States and Britain have carried out strikes aimed at curbing the Houthi ability to target shipping, but the group has continued to attack merchant vessels transiting the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky told allies on Thursday that Ukraine must be in a position of strength before any peace talks with Russia, as he explained that his victory plan to EU leaders and NATO defense chiefs in Brussels. Details follow.
As he explained his victory plan to EU leaders and NATO defense chiefs in Brussels, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told allies on Thursday that Ukraine must be in a position of strength before any peace talks with Russia. More than 2.5 years into the war, Kiev is slowly but steadily losing territory in its eastern Donbas region and under mounting pressure to forge an exit strategy, which it says must start with ramped-up Western support. As he met with the EU's 27 leaders, Zelensky said Ukraine is ready for real diplomacy, but for it they must be strong. Zelensky added that Russia would resort to diplomacy only when it sees that it cannot achieve anything by force. The Ukrainian leader has traveled to Washington, Paris, Berlin, Rome and London to promote his initiative, but it has yet to earn backing from Western capitals, and its plea for an immediate invitation to join NATO is widely viewed as unrealistic. Zelensky said after his EU talks that a large number of member states had voiced their support for Kiev. European Parliament President Roberta Metsola told reporters the bloc was unequivocally reaffirming its support for Ukraine and saw Zelensky's victory plan as the way forward. The EU recently approved a plan to loan Ukraine up to 35 billion euros backed by frozen Russian assets, part of bigger $50 billion initiative agreed by G7 powers in June.
North Korea said on Thursday its constitution now defines the South as a hostile state, the first time Pyongyang has confirmed legal changes called for by leader Kim Jong-un earlier this year. The official Korean Central News Agency said after a month of laying fresh mines and ramping up security on the border, the country this week flew up roads and railways linking it to the south, calling it an inevitable and legitimate measures. KCNA said the move was taken in keeping with the requirement of the North Korean constitution, which clearly defines the south as a hostile state. Early in-person voting began statewide in the presidential battleground of North Carolina on Thursday, including in mountainous areas where thousands of voters still lack power and clean running water after Hurricane had an epic flooding. Details follow.
More than 400 locations in all 100 counties were slated to open for the 17-day early vote period in North Carolina on Thursday. Only 4 of 80 sites in the 25 western counties hardest hit by Storm Helene were not going to open. At the South Bancomp Library in Asheville, a city devastated by the storm, about 60 people, most bundled up in jackets, hats and gloves for the chilly weather, lined up around the building before the polls opened. Early in-person voting, which continues through November the 2nd, is very popular in North Carolina. More than 3.6 million ballots, 65% of all cast ballots, were cast this way in 2020 general election. In the 2016 election, 62% of all cast ballots were cast during early in-person voting. Absentee voting in North Carolina began a few weeks ago, with over 67,000 completed ballots turned in so far. People displaced by Helene are being allowed to drop off their absentee ballot at any early voting site in the state. The importance of early voting was not lost upon the presidential campaigns of Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. On Thursday, Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Tim Walz was expected to campaign in Winston-Salem and in Durham, where he was to be joined by former President Bill Clinton. South Dakota Government Kristi Noem, the U.S. Senator Cindy Hyde Smith of Mississippi, and Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Whatley were expected to appear on the Team Trump bus tour when it resumes Thursday in Rutherford County, which was among the hardest hit areas. The North Carolina ballot also includes races for governor, attorney general, and several other statewide positions. All U.S. House and General Assembly seats also up for re-election.
Abu Ghait calls for enhancing Arab-Turkish cooperation to go beyond trade towards broader horizons. Eurozone bond yields tick higher ahead of ECB decision. And Biden approves 4.5 billion euros in student debt relief as vote nears. Secretary General of the Arab League, Ahmed Abu Ghait, addressed on Thursday the Arab-Turkish Economic Cooperation Forum, which is being held in Istanbul. In his speech, Abu Ghait reiterated that the forum represents a unique platform for dialogue that brings together Arab and Turkish politicians, economists, businessmen, and investors to discuss regional and global economic prosperity of Arab countries and Turkey. He added that the participants will explore new opportunities in emerging sectors such as green energy, technology, and financial technology to take advantage of the region's strategic location as a significant economic bridge between Asia, Europe, and Africa. Abu Ghait further stressed that the relationship between the Arab countries and Turkey is characterized by historical depth that created a common heritage and values between the two parties. Egypt's stock market indices collectively retreated on Thursday, being affected by selling operations by Arab and foreign investors. The main EGX 30 index retreated 1.31%, while the small and medium EGX 70 index lost 0.21%. The more expanded EGX 100 index lost 0.71%. World stocks were mixed on Thursday, with European stocks gaining in anticipation that the European Central Bank will cut borrowing costs. In Europe, London FTSE 100 lost 0.1%. Over Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.27%. The S&P 500 gained 0.38%, and the Nasdaq Composite added 0.65%. Earlier in Asia, Hong Kong Hang Seng dropped 1%, and the Shanghai Composite Index shed 1.1%. Japan Nikkei 225 Index lost 0.7%. The euro slid to a more than 2-month low on Thursday ahead of an expected European Central Bank rate cut, while the dollar hit its highest in 11 weeks on the prospect Trump, whose policies the market considers more bullish, will win the U.S. election. The euro struggled near the 150 per dollar level and was lost at 149.765. Sterling firmed slightly against the euro to 83.54 pence. The euro slipped 0.1%, falling for the 7th straight session. Eurozone bond yields rose slightly on Thursday after falling for 2 consecutive sessions as markets waited for European Central Bank decision later in the day. Details follow. Eurozone bond yields rose slightly on Thursday after falling for 2 consecutive sessions as markets waited for a European Central Bank decision later in the day. Germany's 10-year bond yield, the benchmark for the Eurozone bloc, rose 2.7 basis points. The ECB is expected to lower interest rates by 25 basis points to 3.25%. Traders will be listening out for hints about whether the market's expectations that rates will continue to fall at consecutive meetings is close to the mark. Since the last ECB meeting in September, where the Governing Council lowered rates for a second time this cycle to 3.5%, weak economic data and a sharper than expected fall in inflation below 2% has caused traders to ramp up their bets on rate cuts. They now see rates falling to around 2%. Germany's 2-year bond yield, which is sensitive to ECB rate expectations, rose 1.9 basis points. Italy's 10-year yield was higher by 1 basis points. Data on Thursday showed that Eurozone inflation was revised lower. The Egyptian Pro League announced that the draw for the upcoming Egyptian Premier League season will take place on Saturday, 19th of October. The 2024-2025 season will feature a new format following the approval of modifications by all 18 Egyptian Premier League clubs earlier this month. According to the EPL, the new season will introduce a single round format involving all 18 clubs, with the top 9 teams progressing to compete for the title in another single round. The remaining clubs will compete to determine the 2 teams that will be relegated. The EPL have made the decision to decrease the number of relegated teams from 3 to 2. Former England defender Gary Neville said that the FA decision to appoint German Thomas Tuchel as head coach of the national team raises serious questions about English coaching. Former Chelsea and Bayern Munich boss is the first German to manage England and just the 3rd foreigner to take charge after Sweden Guran Eriksson and Italian Fabio Capello. Newcastle United Eddie Howe, one of only 3 English managers in the Premier League, and former Chelsea head coach Graham Potter were among those linked with the job before the FA named Tuchel as Jar's successor. FIFA President Gianni Infantino said that Seattle Lumen Field will host 6 games during next year's Club World Cup. The Seattle Sounders, which earned a spot in the competition by winning the 2022 Champions League, will host all 3 of their group matches at their home stadium. 3 other matches will also be played at Lumen Field, one of 12 stadiums that will host a total of 63 games during the tournament. The event, which is now set to be played every 4 years, will include an expanded field of 32 teams from FIFA 6 Soccer Confederation. The tournament is set to start on June 15th and run through July 13th, with the final set for New Jersey MetLife Stadium, also the site of the 2026 World Cup final. So far, the Club World Cup has drawn no major U.S. sponsors, and there is not a media rights deal in place. Rafael Nadal starts his pre-retirement farewell tour against Carlos Alcaraz on Thursday at the 6th Kings Slam, and Novak Djokovic faces Jannik Sinner at the exhibition event that awards money but no ATP ranking. Details follow. Rafael Nadal starts his pre-retirement farewell tour against Carlos Alcaraz on Thursday at the 6th Kings Slam, and Novak Djokovic faces Jannik Sinner at an exhibition event that awards money but no ATP ranking points. Riyadh will host the WTA Finals next month. In Wednesday matches at the 6th Kings Slam, the top-ranked Sinner beat Dal Medvedev 6-0, 6-3, and Alcaraz defeated Holger Rune 6-4, 6-2. Nadal, an ambassador for the Saudi Tennis Federation, and Djokovic were given buys into the semi-finals. The matchup against Alcaraz will be the first contest for Nadal since his exit at the Paris Olympics in July. Nadal and Alcaraz played doubles together at the Paris Games. Looking ahead to Thursday's exhibition, Alcaraz called Nadal a legend. Djokovic and Sinner made for real on Sunday. After a day off on Friday, the winners of Thursday's 2 matches in Riyadh will meet in the event's final on Saturday. Ben Ainsley's team got 2 wins on the board in the America's Cup, but does think his team have enough to mount a full or a comeback. Details follow.
Britain won a second race in their America's Cup final against New Zealand in tricky sea conditions, cutting the holders' lead to 4-2 and prompting skipper Ben Ainsley to say the comeback is on in the first to 7 series. The British outmaneuvered the New Zealand's crew, led by Peter Burling in the final second of the pre-start in Wednesday's second race, and shot across the line in their foiling AC-75 to establish an early lead, building on their success in the first. Britain haven't been in the America's Cup final for more than 60 years and have never won it, while New Zealand are looking to record a 3rd straight victory in the battle for what is billed as the oldest trophy in international sport. Ainsley said that the team's decision to get out and practice on Tuesday's reserve day had helped them to hone the noses of their boat and how to sail it. Britain stayed ahead in all 8 legs of the second race, hitting speeds of more than 35 knots as they navigated a churned-up sea and holding off a late Kiwi fight back. Ainsley's crew had also got a better start in the first race, forcing the Kiwis onto the back foot as their boat slipped off its spoils and was left wobbling. Britain crossed the start line to leave New Zealand in the wake and disappeared up the course. By the time New Zealand were able to get back on their foils, Ainsley's crew just needed to make sure they sailed cleanly to capitalize on the advantage. Ainsley's crew kept the cool to notch up their first win of the series in the long quest to win the Wild Mug, which is Britain boat hasn't won in the event's 173-year history. The New Zealand crew sat aboard the boat as they were towed back in, as usual, locked in discussion as they looked ahead to the next races scheduled for Friday. The British waved and were met with horns blaring, and their supporters celebrated a much-needed fillip for the fans.
Dear viewers, by that we come to the end of our Panorama News. Stay tuned for more on Nile TV International. I am Bسمة signing off.